and welcome to the Sanctuary, a safe space to speak from the heart. I'm your host, Israel. I'm so excited as part of Folk International Alliance International being in Montreal, Quebec, Canada. So excited to have the Executive Director of Folk Alliance International, Jennifer Rowe, and the Sanctuary today. Thanks for coming on the podcast.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Oh my. So I was checking the page when they introduced you as the executive director, and you've done so much. Like from working in on a presidential campaign to actually starting your own business to working with FAI and doing all these things before now you are running the whole ship. I'm curious, like let's go back. How one thing that really stood up reading up a little bit about you was your love for service, like doing stuff for community. Where did that start?
Oh, that's a really good question. I think that's always been a part of my family. My parents certainly ingrained that as what we do like we were always involved in different community programs that we would do as a family. So I'm sure it starts with that. It was just a given, maybe. But yeah, I started my career in Washington D.C. in politics, and that is lots have changed since then. But it's fun to have all those different experiences help me be who I am right now.
And the music, where did the music come from? The love for music come from?
Well, certainly, that is absolutely from my childhood as well. I mean, we all grew up playing instruments and uh, singing as a family. My mom would sing in front of church. My grandmother was, we would sit around the piano and sing music together when we had family gatherings, or she'd be playing her violin. So that was certainly part of our family. But um, I I absolutely didn't think that I'd be working in music as a career. That wasn't planned out, but it's been a really fun space to be in and be surrounded by such amazing, talented, and creative people. It's pretty honor. I feel honored to be in this space.
Talking about music and especially the Folk Alliance International, you've worked under I think three different executive directors. How has that experience been? How was that experience working under these different executive directors versus now that you're the person in this position?
Yeah, I was hired as a contractor under Lewis Myers, and Lewis, was one of the founding members of South by Southwest in Austin. And so to learn from him and how he really focused on stabilizing the organization financially and allowed Angus Finnan, who was the one that hired me full time, to take risks and to build and grow the organization. I worked alongside Angus to do that. I did not think I was the right person to step into the position when Angus left. I felt confident that we needed someone with a lot more industry experience, and I was a part of the hiring committee during that time. I stepped into the interim role after Angus, and the person that we hired was that person. Like, she certainly had the industry experience that I wasn't even close to having experience on, and so when she left, I realized that, you know what, this is a part that I can learn. And I am, right now I'm the best person for this job. I think is what is also different is those other three people were just like gregarious and happy to be loud and on stage. And I'm like a little Jen, a little bit quiet. I'm, can hide behind the computer more easily. So it's realizing that despite how different I am, I have my own value that I add to this organization. And I don't need to be compared to the other three people because they all added value in their own ways. And now I'm here to add value in a way that represents who I am. And all of us have a job of serving this community. So
Mm.
that's just, the thing that overlaps all of us is that our job is to serve the folk music community and to really bring forward our mission of the organization.
Yeah, no, and it shows I started talking about service and you brought it back to actually serving the organization. For the audience that might not know what the Folk Alliance International is, could you share a bit about FAI?
Absolutely. So, Folk Alliance is a non for profit based here in the United States. Our headquarters are in Kansas City, Missouri. We prefer not to talk about the Kansas City Chiefs loss in the Super Bowl, so let's not bring that up. But uh, but we are a nonprofit, international nonprofit for the folk music industry. Our mission is to present, preserve, and promote folk music. And one of the main ways that we do this is by hosting an annual conference. That's one thing that we do in the 365 days of the year. That happens to be like the five most energized and energetic days of our year. But we in the conference we bring together folks from all aspects of the folk music industry, including artists. And it's a showcasing conference, so artists have the opportunity to showcase and perform and show their talents with probably the hope and goal to be picked up by a presenter to put them on their stage and pay them for the music that they can share on the various stages. So, and we have people that are purchasing music to put on stage, and we have our agents and managers and record labels on all aspects,
Mm.
including folk radio DJs and podcast hosts, and it's this whole ecosystem that's important to come together to make one giant amazing event.
Yeah, no, I mean it's 5 amazing days in Montreal. And then there's the International Folk Music Awards, but there's to me the networking, the community, the workshops, and the showcases are amazing for artists. You know, it's like go out there, show what you have, and get your voice or get your music in front of the right people. So what the Folk Alliance is doing is super awesome. And I know it's like an organization based in the US. How did it come that this year's conference is being held in Montreal?
We have always, since the beginning of our organization, had a connection with the Canadian membership. So it's since early on, we realized the importance of having a presence in Canada through our conference.
Mm.
In the last several years, so we've had our conference in Calgary and Vancouver. Three. This is the third time that we've had it in Montreal, and we've also had it in Toronto. So right now, the cadence is about once every 6 years we go up to Canada. It's definitely having in Canada increases our Canadian attendance, but we always have Canadians attend as well when we are in the US.
Mm. No, I mean, I know that I have a couple of friends that do go up there, and okay, we're not going to talk about the Super Bowl, but like the Kansas Chiefs have been great. Like you guys won back to back, so
Yeah, it's probably time that we have a year off, right?
so at least at least there's that. Um, and I while I was reading, I saw that there's a whole 7 year plan mapped out. Your team what's the work that went into creating that 7 year plan?
Yeah, so the 7 year plan is to indicate where we will be holding our conference over those 7 years. And we have 5 years identified. Three of those are in New Orleans, which is also where the Super Bowl happened yesterday. So, and I was just in New Orleans a couple of weeks ago when we made that announcement. And the process of that was we realized that we wanted to have a multi-year contract with the city because it helps our team in figuring out the logistics. Anytime we move to a different city, there's a lot to map out,
Mm,
including relationships in the city, not just like the actual hotel landscape, but really the relationships that we build in those cities. We held our conference in 2020 in New Orleans, and frankly, it was the most successful and the most well attended conference that we've ever had in our history of our organization.
mm,
That was weeks before the pandemic hit. So we were very fortunate that we got that in before the pandemic hit. But honestly, the people that attended that conference were able to take full advantage of all the connections they made because they immediately the world shut down in March of that year. So this is but what was beautiful was the connections that we did make, and we realized we wanted to further those connections in New Orleans because
mm,
it has such a deep history in music, and I know there's more growth opportunity in that area. So that was
Mm,
part of it. The whole process of picking out cities includes sending out a request for proposal to cities throughout the US. Our team visited, I don't know, 5+ cities, and then finally narrowed it down to this. It will be in Chicago, New Orleans, and then followed by that by Chicago. We've never been to Chicago, so that's a brand new city, and we already started building relationships with funders in that area. And of course, we have a large membership in Chicago already. And then
mm,
Kansas City is a part of that equation as well, just 1 year, and that's of course where our offices are located. So yeah, it's really a lot about building relationships, and then for our community, because we have a lot of entrepreneurs, especially our artists, who really this is a business for them, and we need to
mm,
find a place that is economically affordable for them to invest in, and going to a city that's not super expensive. So
mm.
that's a huge part of the decision making factor.
Yeah, no, I mean, I know I'm partial to. I love Chicago, and I love the cities that are being mapped out for the next couple of years for Folk Alliance, and for the attendees that might not have attended any of the conference before. What are some things they should expect in the 5 days of that conference?
Well, the 5 days of the conference, first of all, if this is your first time, I would highly suggest that you come with a plan. Like, look at the schedule, figure out how you want to invest your time, and talk to someone that you know there, because it is a big conference. And frankly, it can be overwhelming and intimidating to be in that space. So I would highly suggest first timers go to our orientation, which occurs on Wednesday afternoon. We also have a first timers coffee, I believe, on Friday. Connect with those first timers, hang out with them in the hallway, and connect with people that have been there for a while, because we are here to support each other, even, especially in this intimidating space. We hopefully it's not too intimidating, but it's exciting. I think artists often feel like one of the biggest benefits for them is making connections with other artists and
Mm.
having that collaboration and opportunity, for creative collaboration, and then perhaps future touring opportunities with each other. So just be open to the possibilities, and come with a plan, and be open to have things shift and change.
And talking about how large a workshop, the conference is, I was looking at last year's report. I love, just going through it. There were over 400 networking meetings and lots of scholarships sent given to first time attendees, and lots of panels and premiere presentations. So I'm just guessing this year is going to build on all that momentum from last year.
Absolutely. This year, we have about 10% more registered attendees than we did last year. We're still growing back from the pandemic, like a lot of us are. Back in 2020, we had 3,332 people show up in New Orleans. And this year, we're
Wow.
expecting around, I know it's crazy. It was a lot. This year, we're expecting around 2,700 people. So it's about a 10 to 12% growth. So our format remains the same from last year. Um, but we've grown in those, probably a few more showcases and private showcases, and all those things that are adjusted based on how many people are attending. And we've done a lot of those networking meetings already. We
Mm.
did, I believe, 4 sessions over the last several weeks with one-on-ones, and were very well attended. And it was amazing to hear the reports from that. I believe we have one more elevator ride
Yes,
coming
I
up.
was gonna talk about that one. You so thanks for bringing it up. And people can go right on the website and register for this on Zoom. But like, I believe whenever you go to conferences, it's great to go to the panels and the workshops and all that. But I find it's in the hallways that most of the magic happens.
Yes, yes. So we in 2021, when we had our conference 100% online, we created these opportunity called elevator rides, and the elevator rides were just simulating what we see at the conference. So we're getting in, we're standing in line and waiting for the next elevator, which can take sometimes longer than you hope. But as we're waiting, you're engaging in conversation with folks. And then when you're getting on the elevator, you engage in conversation, because you're all here excited to experience this together.
Mm.
And yeah, it's really fun. And you might have an upright bass like jammed into you, and I've been in elevators before where a whole performance is happening and you can hear it like
Yes.
coming up. I'm like, what am I going to be stepping into? And it's
Yeah.
like it's an amazing band performing music in the elevator. So you never know what's going to happen in that space. But taking advantage of those opportunities to speak with people and network is a huge part of Folk Alliance.
Mm. And the other thing is, you have this huge support with partners and sponsors of the conference, and like I can't imagine the work that has gone into that. How do you maintain those relationships with the sponsors?
That's an excellent question. We have 9 full-time staff members here in Kansas, well, in Kansas City and throughout the US. Not all of us are here. But we have a couple of people that are on development and sponsorship team, and that's part of their relationship is managing those sponsorship relationships and donor relationships and working. We have a programming team that works with our panelists and then official showcase. There's a lot of moving pieces that are happening, so we're always in the opportunity for growth and finding new connections and relationships that we can build on. But it's most of these come from really interacting with people for quite a while over the years, and we find our relationships from word of mouth, or we find it from going to other events. Folk Alliance shows up at many events throughout music events throughout the world, frankly. And we make those connections oftentimes through those other events.
Mm. And then for artists that might not be showcasing this year, we know that the conference is planned for the next couple of years. So, what advice would you give for artists that are planning to showcase our Folk Alliance, and how can they prepare? And what, I guess, advice you have for them?
Well, we do have a couple different avenues for showcasing. We have what are called our official showcases, and that's a juried process. We had over 1,000 applications for about 180 spots, so it's very few people get into it. That's 18% acceptance. But I like people to realize that that is not the end all be all. We have another 300 to 400 artists that are not performing on official showcase stages and are only doing private showcase performances. And that's really a unique and special place of our conference where folks can wander the halls and go from. We have in the Sheraton in Montreal, there are 4 floors and I believe about 70 to 80 rooms, and people get to experience and listen to your music during those. I always recommend that people have make connections and networks so that they can connect with the host of those rooms. Folk Alliance doesn't manage those. We host the first timers room in support with our regions as well. But it's about relationship building and connecting with the host of those rooms so they know that you're looking for it. Don't overbook yourself. We have a limit of 6 showcases for each artist in the private showcase floors. You do not need more than that. You don't even need 6. You're probably fine with just 3 or 4,
Mm.
because if you overload it, people will be like, oh, I'll just see them the next time. They have a whole bunch on here. So I think it's always wise to, and don't overdo it. You only have so much time. You want to be able to listen and connect with people instead of just performing, which performance is important, but that's not the only point of this conference. The point is
Mm.
also to connect and network with each other.
Wow. This conversation has been amazing. So thanks for sharing that, and thanks for stepping into this role. I'm gonna let you go with this question. What are you looking forward to in this year's conference?
Yeah, I tend to be so focused on an operational level that my immediate response is I am looking forward to everybody have a good time, because there's so much energy put into this, and seeing our staff be successful because they have done so much work in doing this. But I'm also incredibly excited about our keynote. I'm excited about the conversations that we will have in the panels and to listen to the music. What I love most about our conference is the discovery. There are many artists that listening to the showcase artists and just being odd, like people I had no idea existed are going to be performing at our conference, and I can walk down the hall and not even know what I'm looking for and find something that I love. And that's
Mm.
beautiful. And so to me, discovery is always the number one exciting thing about my conference.
Wow. Jennifer, the work you're doing is amazing, and congrats to you
You.
and your staff. I'm so grateful for the work you're doing. I can't wait for a fun time in Montreal. I love that city. I want to say thank you for all you're doing, and thanks for coming to the sanctuary today.
Thank you. It's been great to be spending time with you.